Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a church leader, a pastor, or just a deeply invested member of your congregation, you already know the reality. There are quiet crises happening right now in your pews. Today, we're focusing on a really crucial question derived from our source material. Why partner, and specifically, why Restoring Hope Ministries? We're going to uncover how building a structured care pathway can absolutely transform your church and offer a truly sustainable path forward for hurting people. So let's just dive right in. Ask yourself honestly, when someone in your congregation is secretly facing a brutal addiction, maybe a breaking marriage, or just deep, hidden trauma, where do they actually go? It's a heavy question, and for a lot of churches, the answer just isn't as clear as it should be.
Well, based on our source material, the reality is pretty grim. Because professional help is so expensive, these hurting individuals often just fall right through the cracks. And it usually ends up in one of three ways. They suffer in total silence sitting right next to you on Sunday, they isolate and eventually leave the church entirely, or they turn to secular alternatives that completely lack a biblical foundation. Honestly, none of those are what we want for our church families.
Section 2, the pastoral burden and the heavy cost of siloed care. Look at the stark contrast here. Relying solely on solo pastoral care to handle complex mental health or addiction, that leads directly to high liability and, frankly, severe pastoral burnout. Your pastors are shepherds, right? But man, they're carrying a crushing load. On the flip side, the RHM care pathway gives you a trusted referral system. It actively shares that burden, coordinates support, and genuinely protects your leaders from burning out. Moving right along to Section 3, the RHM solution, your trusted guide in care. Let's see how this actually works in practice. This is exactly why Restoring Hope Ministries, or RHM, created the Care Pathway Partner Program. Think of them as a trusted extension of your own pastoral team. They step in and provide subsidized biblical counseling, super streamlined referrals so absolutely nobody gets lost in the shuffle, hands-on training workshops for your volunteers, and even direct pastoral consultation for those really tricky, complex cases.
Which brings us to Section 4, built on biblical ethics, scripture-anchored, safeguarded care.
Now, here is what fundamentally separates RHM from your standard secular counseling services: their totally uncompromising commitment to biblical ethics. And hey, this isn't just a buzzword for them. Our sources describe it as a strictly scripture-anchored framework ensuring truth in love. They use strict safeguarding protocols, a minimum necessary sharing policy to completely protect privacy, and they operate on the absolute core belief of treating every single person as a dignified image bearer of God. They're trauma-aware and absolutely fixated on safe, ethical boundaries. Plus, RHM counselors, they don't just operate on an island. They are highly accountable. They go through this really rigorous pastoral supervision process. First up, weekly 45-minute supervision meetings. Second, when they review cases, they use minimal identifiers to completely protect the counselee's identity. And third, there's a constant evaluation of both their doctrine and their shepherding tone. It basically guarantees the highest standard of ethical soul care is maintained at all times. Okay, Section 5, Partnership Tiers Explained, Investments with Eternal Impact. Let's actually look at the mechanics of this. Before we jump into the specific tiers, you kind of have to understand the underlying math here. Basically, every $100 your church invests partially subsidizes a counseling session. So a $150 individual session, that drops to just $50 for your congregant. Now, you might be thinking, why not just make it totally free? Well, the source material notes that research actually shows entirely free services can inadvertently undermine engagement. This model hits a sweet spot. Your people get excellent, affordable care, but they still have a little skin in the game. It's a pretty brilliant balance.
Let's look at the entry point. At the support partner level, the commitment is just $250 a month. That actively covers 2 session subsidies every month. Plus, and this is a huge value add, any unused subsidies actually roll over into a scholarship fund. Oh, and it also gives your pastoral team vital consultation access for when they need advice on a really tough situation in the church.
Moving up, we've got the most popular tier, the Barnabas Partner, at $1,000 a month. This level covers 10 subsidized sessions for your people, but it also really steps up the resources. You get pastoral consults, early access to crisis scholarship slots, and get this, an annual training workshop delivered right there at your church to equip your own leaders. For high-capacity needs, there's the Cornerstone Partner at $5,000 a month. This tier scales the impact massively.
It actually underwrites a half-time counselor dedicated completely to your church's caseload. It covers 50 subsidized sessions, and it even includes 3 trainee seats per year to build up certified biblical counselors, literally from within your own congregation. That is just a massive structural advantage for the long-term health of your church.
Which leads us to Section 6, Real Church Transformation, the Impact of Partnership.
Listen, these aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These represent real marriages saved and lives pulled from the brink. Take this senior pastor from a partner church in Wisconsin. He shared, before partnering with RHM, we had no clear pathway when someone in our congregation came to us in crisis. Several families in our church have been restored because of this partnership. I mean, having a trusted, immediate referral means absolutely everything when a family comes to you in their darkest hour.
And if you're worried about the cost, this next story really hits the nail on the head. An elder board chairman noted that within just 3 months, they watched a young couple on the verge of divorce receive biblical counseling they can never afford on their own. Their marriage is completely restored. You literally cannot put a price tag on a restored family unit within your church.
Or consider this absolutely incredible story from a women's ministry director. A congregant struggling silently with addiction for years finally got fast access to biblical counseling through RHM. The result? She is now 14 months clean. And get this, she is actually leading their church's women's recovery group. That is what generational transformative impact looks like. She didn't just recover, she stepped up to lead.
So the real takeaway from this explainer is beautifully summed up in Galatians 6:2. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. The whole question of why partner, why RHM, really just comes down to how we tangibly, ethically, and practically carry those heavy burdens together as a structurally supported body of believers. I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. When the next crisis inevitably hits your congregation, because we all know it will, is your church fully equipped with a safe, ethical, and sustainable pathway to restore their hope? Thank you so much for walking through this explainer with me. I really hope unpacking this source material helps you envision a healthier, more supported future for your own congregation.